This is probably going to be my most difficult book review of the year. It's going to be difficult because this is not a book that I really enjoyed. It is a new author's first book, and it was sent to me by the author's PA. So I was like, yeah, of course I'm going to read it and review it. And I want to be really honest. I think honesty is important in the review space. I think there's a lot of pressure to give a review that the author will like. But I also think just as important as honesty also is kindness. So I'm going to try to be both. And I do think that giving a review of a book that I did not enjoy is different for the new author, especially for a new self-published author, because they have to work harder to market their book than for a big name, well-established author like Brandon Sanderson, Stephen King, Dan Simmons. I have made rant reviews or just poor reviews for their books, which is not going to matter to them. My reviews are not going to affect their sales, their popularity, whatever. I feel like I have more responsibility to this author than to a bigger name author. So, to the review portion. Stone and Sky by Z.S. Diamanti is the first in a completed trilogy called the Stone and Sky series. It is full of magical creatures, magical races, and every race, like humans, elves, dwarves, orcs, they all have their own species of magical winged steed. The main ones in this story being the humans who ride griffins and the orcs who ride wyverns. And the idea for this story was inspired by Diamanti's time in the Air Force, I think he said, except instead of people fighting in planes, they're fighting atop the backs of magical creatures. The world where the story takes place is called Finlestia. It takes place mostly on the continent of Terrene, which is where the different races live and fight. And currently, when the story starts, humans and orcs have been fighting each other. The orcs are considered the main bad guys in this area. They're kind of everybody's enemy. And the book starts with one lone surviving griffin rider from an encounter between griffin and wyvern. This griffin rider is rescued by a local huntswoman and her family, and together they start on a journey to get back to the main capital where the griffin rider wants to go to help. He needs to get back, help his army. On the way, they pick up a couple of extra characters. They do encounter their enemy's secret weapon, which really inspire them to have to get back. Now, instead of just wanting to get back to help in the fight, they have a big reason to need to tell their side, we know what their secret weapon is, it is coming, we must prepare. They meet friends along the way, they have adventures. Other characters that we kind of follow are the newly crowned king, the newly crowned human king, and his cousin, the huntswoman's brother, and mainly the other main character is an orc named Karnak, Gar of Kalrock, son of Plak. And his big main character arc is how he struggles with the morality of what they're doing, of how they are fighting what they're being commanded to do. But among this fight between orcs and humans, a greater enemy rises up, and all the races in Terrene have to decide what they're going to do about it. Not just the races as groups, but like even individual people. How are we going to handle this new threat? And will they be able to come together and work together with people that were their enemies or that they haven't interacted with in generations? One of my favorite characters was probably the goblin, who is a spy, but he also makes wine. And so part of how he is going to be spying is setting up a tavern in a new town, and that kind of adds like almost a cozy fantasy vibe in amongst the other more adventurous parts of the book. When I got this, it arrived in a beautifully done book box. It is signed with an inscription to me personally. It came with a handwritten note, a bookmark, stickers. Diamanti does a very good job at the marketing of his stories. He's very active on social media. I think he's doing a really good job. And there were parts of this book that were so good, little phrases or descriptions where I could just totally visualize what he was talking about, and worded so well that it sounded almost poetic. I almost wanted to highlight them, but those were just here and there, and I felt like it showed the potential that he has as a writer, And I really hate saying that an author who already has books out, 2 more after this one, and a book of short stories, I hate saying that they have potential because they already have books out. A lot of us don't even get that far. So kudos to you. And if you want to end watching right here and just have that part of the review, this is a good stopping spot because now I'm going to get to the negative stuff and the stuff I didn't like. So if you want to skip the negativity, happy reading. But I did say I wanted to be honest, so here are the things that made this book not be for me. I think it came out too soon. To me, it read like it had gone through a couple of rounds of drafting and then just published. And it would have greatly benefited from a few more rounds of drafting. It felt like it needed to be filled out more, especially in the sense of telling instead of showing. So the phrase show don't tell, instead of just telling me that a character said something, write out what they said. Put in the quotation marks, the dialogue tags. Like, I wanted it more expanded out. I wanted to experience the things with them instead of just being told that they did the things. Which, interestingly, I'm reading Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin right now, and it's a lot of that same telling instead of showing. There was some point of view inconsistencies, what's known as head hopping. Like, I thought we were seeing from this character's point of view, but then we can kind of see into this character's head and what they're thinking, and so I wasn't sure whose view we were seeing from sometimes. There were some very modern turns of phrase that I felt like if it had gone through another couple rounds of drafting could have been changed into more like, it feels like a fantasy world instead of our world. Oh, I have a lot more stuff listed out on the things that I didn't like. And the more I say about it, the worse it feels. I don't think I'm gonna say everything. It doesn't matter. The book's already out. It's done. There's people who love this. I will say the back blurb is telling about Oren and how Oren is the protector and Oren has to get back to save his country. Oren is not the main character, so I thought it was weird that you think the book is about Oren. He's the character you get at the very beginning, who's the last Griffin writer to survive from his group. But then once they leave, it's just as much about every other character. It's not a book about Oren. I didn't feel like the stakes were ever high enough. Their problems got solved too easily, usually. I would have loved to see more of that connection between writer and animal that you get in writer stories. And I would have liked a lot more character development. I felt like there wasn't much of that. And the most character development came from Karnak the Orc, which is why I think a lot of people have Karnak as their favorite character, because he got the most development from beginning to end. This came out last year in 2023. The full trilogy is already out. So if you try it and like it, there's still 2 more, plus short stories. I hope that Diamanti keeps writing. I hope that he writes slower. I hope that he just takes more time, more drafting, more time spent on the crafting of the story. I don't plan on continuing the trilogy. I'm not going to read the 2nd and 3rd. I hate giving a bad review. I do hope he keeps writing. There was good stuff, and I hope that can be expanded into future books. I will link his website and the cover artist. Thank you to my patrons for your support, and happy reading. Bye.